nuclear weapons and British strategic planning. Martin, let's talk about the military options on the table here. The head of the IAEA, the nuclear watchdog, has said that we're moving into a new realm of North Korean strength as far as its nuclear program is concerned. Do you think that this is a different global threat than we've seen before?
Yes, this is a really serious crisis. And I may be stating the obvious there, but I think the reason it is a serious crisis is because it is underpinned by a number of fallacies. The first fallacy is that China will solve this problem. They will not. Secondly, that sanctions will resolve it. Sanctions cannot change North Korean behaviour. Thirdly, the question is whether Kim Jong-un is deterrable. That's far from clear. And fourthly, whether war is unthinkable, and I don't think it is.
The US ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, has just said in the last hour that Kim Jong-un, the North Korean leader, is effectively, quote, begging for war. Do you think that is true? What does he want out of this?
Well, begging for war is a characterisation I don't know if I would go along with. I'm not sure if he wants war. The question is he reckless? Will he be reckless in a crisis? And so far, North Korean behaviour, and Kim Jong-un's behaviour in particular, would suggest that he is prepared to run risks. And if you have a competitor, an opponent who has thermonuclear-armed intercontinental ballistic missiles and is prepared to run risks in a crisis, that is a very serious situation. And I don't believe that an expanding thermonuclear arsenal capable of targeting the United States' largest cities in the next few years is tolerable to the United States, and therefore the United States is going to have to do something about it.
The UN is talking at the moment, seeing if they can come up with any sort of diplomatic solutions to this crisis. But in the meantime, as we've just been hearing, there's been a big military build-up around the Korean peninsula at the moment. South Korea, Japan, the United States, obviously North Korea as well. What does that mean, aside from the obvious, that if you've got people pointing missiles at each other, then that's not a good thing? But what does it mean to have, over such a small space, so much international presence?
Well, there are two issues here. One is the optics of the situation. The United States wants to show that it is prepared to back and bolster its allies. In the 1950s, war broke out when it was unclear whether the United States would defend South Korea. The United States is not going to make that mistake. But if it came to war, I don't believe adding troops and assets onto the Korean peninsula will change anything. The United States can move assets nearer the Korean peninsula from aircraft carriers, from bombers based in the United States. It can do that pretty rapidly, and it will do that if it decides at some point in time that it cannot live with Kim Jong-un's nuclear ICBMs.
Jim Mattis, the US Defense Secretary, has said that the alliance of nations against North Korea is ironclad. Is that realistic?
Well, the alliance is not the most important thing here. The most important thing is what the United States decides is within its own interest. I believe that over the next few months and years, we are going to see a growing division between South Korea on the one hand and the United States on the other. Until now, they have been together, unified, but the United States will take its own interest into consideration if it decides to escalate.
Yeah, so we wait to see what President Trump means when he says we'll see, when asked whether he would actually strike on North Korea itself. Martin, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate your analysis, as always. Still to come on Connect the